Hey, what's up everybody? Ray here. I wanted to put this quick video out there, Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 theory and discussion video of about Genesis. A lot of y'all have been asking me about my thoughts on that. I did a video about him months ago, but in this video I wanted to talk about how I feel like they need to portray his character and some of the plot navigation they're going to have to do to get him into the story, because I think he is going to be a big part of the story. I think he's definitely a lock to be in this game. His relationship to Zack and how that's going to play out in the game, because as we all know, Zack has survived in the new storyline. Cat's out of the bag. But before I get into all that, I wanted to say real quick, if you want to subscribe to the channel, please click the bell for all notifications so you will know when I have new videos going live. And throw a like on the video so basically more people can see it. So I appreciate that. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Alright, so right off the bat in this game, Genesis, however, whenever he pops up, I think you need to leave little like traces. Okay, he needs to have his own theme, like his own music. So you hear little hints of his music. Maybe in the beginning you don't see him, you don't even hear him, but you see like someone in the shadows, like a silhouette of somebody in the shadows, off in the distance. You know what I mean? Little hints and traces that there's someone else here, there's someone else influencing what's going on. Now that they know that that fate is not binding everything together. Genesis should be more stoic. Alright? In Crisis Core, he was in the process of changing, right? Basically, he was broken. He was a broken guy. He had the disease and he was dying and working towards a sort of godly power, though. He was working towards trying to figure out a way to fix himself so that he did not suffer the same fate as all the other members of Soldier. And he was on his way to achieving some kind of godly power, right? He was already powerful. He was already very formidable. He was on Sephiroth's level, except he was starting to degrade. Now, he is changed after the battle with Zack and being turned away from the live stream by Minerva. He died. He was in the live stream and Minerva sent him back. After the battle with Zack, he was dead. He was dead to rights, and he went back. And after that, he's changed. He is more silent at the end of Crisis Core. He's much more silent, more reserved. He's not like unconscious or anything. He's awake. He takes the apple when Zack hands him the dumb apple or whatever, you know. He is conscious. I don't need any more pontificating or spewing lines from Loveless from Genesis. As I said in the Genesis video I posted months ago, the concept of this character is fantastic. The concept of the character is fantastic. The execution is horrible. The execution was terrible. I don't need a villain to be quoting poetry or lines from his favorite play or whatever. A little bit of that sprinkled in for character depth is great, but when that's all you do, that sucks. I don't even need to play around about that. You all know how I feel about that stuff. If you are going to be a powerful entity in a story, you need to be portrayed as powerful on some degree. You don't need to be going around very one-sided. Genesis' character was very flat. So they need to fix that. They can fix that by just making him shut up. He can shut up. He can show up at pivotal points until the veil is lifted and it turns out that he is actually the reason that Sephiroth knows so much. That he is the reason. He has told Sephiroth about time looping over itself. He gave Sephiroth the key to the door, and Sephiroth was able to open that door of knowledge. When he wakes up at the end of Dirge of Cerberus, right? If you haven't seen that scene on YouTube, you can check that out. He wakes up at the end of Dirge of Cerberus. He says, "There's still much work to do, brother." He's definitely, in my eyes, he's definitely talking to Sephiroth. He's definitely talking to Sephiroth in that scene. Because there's a scene where Sephiroth talks to Cloud. He says, "There's still so much more work to be done." Then he says it to Cloud. I covered that in the other video, but I'll say it here again. to say this. Genesis is going to be the reason, I feel, ultimately, that all this stuff is turned on its head. That everything is turned upside down, and that will be revealed in the second act. For sure. I feel like, I mean, I don't know anybody at Square Enix. I just feel in my bones that this is a lock. I feel like this is a lock. Because Sephiroth is still the big bad, right? People can argue, oh, Jenova's really the villain or whatever. No, Sephiroth is the main villain of the story, not Jenova. Jenova is the boost, the power up. That she gives Sephiroth a power up, basically. She is the mushroom. Sephiroth is Mario. Sephiroth is Mario. Jenova is the mushroom. Jenova is the raccoon tail, right? Jenova is not the character. Sephiroth is orchestrating everything, and Jenova amplifies his powers because he was made with her. You know, I don't feel like, you know, people give her too much clout in the story now. Now, it would be dope to see a Final Fantasy VII story of the Cetra battling Jenova when she first got here. This ain't Jenova's tale. This is Sephiroth. So he is the star of the show. Now, Sephiroth is still the big bad. Genesis is like the Starscream. He'll be like the Starscream to Sephiroth's Megatron, right? But Genesis needs to be a wild card. He doesn't need to be working hand in hand with Sephiroth. He needs to have his own agenda. He needs to have something he's working toward. Whatever that is. We don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't even really have a theory on that yet, but I feel like he needs to have his own agenda, his own goals. Not just, I want to become all-powerful. That's Sephiroth's end goal. Be all-powerful and use Gaia to travel the cosmos and basically suck other planets dry or whatever, you know. Genesis needs to have his own thing going on. But just like Sephiroth has Cloud, Genesis needs a foil, right? Genesis needs a foil, and I think Genesis' foil will be Zack Fair. Zack will be in the main timeline somehow, okay? Whether he was reacquired by Shinra and Hojo or what. I feel like by the start of this game, Zack will be out doing his own thing. I feel like he will have escaped Shinra, because I really feel like Zack surviving the Shinra attack and then carrying Cloud to Midgar, I feel like that he will be so worn out from his battle. He's already worn out from his battle. He's worn out when he's dragging Cloud toward Midgar at the end of Final Fantasy VII Remake in that vision. He's worn out then. I feel like when he gets back to Midgar, he will have been reacquired and taken into a laboratory or something like that. He will have passed his test, you know. It seems like all these soldiers and stuff, they have tests to see if they're a failure, or these experiments, if they're a failure or whatever. Zack passed his test by wiping out that whole troop of Shinra agents that were coming to collect him. So he'll be reacquired, but he will have escaped and be off doing his own thing at the beginning of Part 2. And I feel like toward the end of Part 2, we will meet Zack face to face, not in a vision, and no multiple timelines. For the love of God, people, there's not going to be... If there are multiple timelines, that shit is lazy writing and unnecessarily convoluted. There's no multiple timelines. They can't do multiple timelines because then this stuff is going to really fall flat. They have to know that. They have to know that. By throwing multiple timelines in there, it takes away consequence from what's going on in the main storyline. It takes away a lot of consequence from that. Now, if you were to show like a future and a past and everything, that's still that one timeline, right? So, anyway, no multiple timelines. I can't stress that enough. Zack, he is going to be the foil for Genesis. He will be drawn toward Genesis like Sephiroth, like Cloud is drawn to Sephiroth to stop him. Zack will feel like, you know, he failed in some way to stop Genesis, and Jill you know, he feels responsible for what happened to Angeal as well on some level, even though Angeal was kind of his Obi-Wan Kenobi, you know, to Zack's Luke Skywalker. But there is definitely a really great storyline with Genesis and Zack that can be explored, and I think they should. I think Zack should be the one to take Genesis down, not Cloud. Cloud and the party should not take everyone down, you know. I feel like the end of the game, you should have a final boss battle between Zack and Genesis. I feel like Zack should take out Genesis, and that would tie up that storyline with a nice little bow, and then you can get on with the rest of it. Because I feel like Sephiroth will have to absorb Genesis in some way. That's a video for another time. That's a video for another time because that's way down the line. I mean, we're not going to see that game for 10 years at the end of this. So it's going to take they need to take their time. They need to take their time. They need to make this a well fleshed out, well thought out story. They need to put the proper time and energy into it. I can't stress that enough. Please take your time and tell this story, because it deserves it. It really does. But here's some stuff. There's some loopholes that they have to jump through, right? Because in the original story, Genesis wakes up way after Final Fantasy VII's over. Like after Dirge of Cerberus, I think it's a couple of years after. I think it's 2 years after. Because Advent Children takes place 1 year after 7, and then Dirge of Cerberus takes place like 1 or 2 years after Advent Children, something like that. So it's at least 2 or 3 years later when Genesis wakes up, right? He obviously has to wake up earlier now. He's got to wake up, what would that be, 2 years earlier. So he can't be slumbering down there forever after the Deep Ground Soldiers, because that's going to change all that too. It's going to change the Deep Ground Soldiers storyline. It's going to do all this other stuff, even though Dirge of Cerberus is not that great. We know, we get it, you know, that storyline's okay. But he has to wake up earlier. He has to wake up much earlier. I think he will. I think he will, because it goes back to the whole thing of like cyclical time loops. One big time loop over and over again, repeating itself over and over again. So this is not the same time loop as Final Fantasy VII Original. This is a different time loop. Things are already happening differently. Big events are both staying the same and changing. So I feel like Genesis wakes up. Something wakes him up, whether it's himself or whatever. I feel like Genesis will be the first one to realize in this time loop that they are in fact experiencing different time loops, and that things keep repeating themselves over and over again. I feel like the entirety of the world and time itself within Gaia in Final Fantasy VII Remake tells itself the same every time, with a few small changes here and there, because if it didn't, then these characters some of these characters wouldn't exist anymore, because their parents would have never gotten together and their ancestors would not have gotten together. So there is a whole downpour of issues with telling the story this way. But for the sake of headaches and avoiding them, let's just say everything stays the same up until this point. Up until this point, it's played itself over and over and over again until the crisis for the planet, Sephiroth, right? So let's just throw that out there, because I don't want to make a 48-hour video explaining with like a conspiracy theory board behind me and looking all crazy, you know. So let's just basically say that everything plays itself the same way over and over again until it gets to this point each time, and things start to change. Genesis wakes up early. He's the first one to realize they are stuck in a time loop. He realizes this. He begins to commune through the live stream with the consciousness of Sephiroth before he begins to wake up. Genesis can still have his slumber, right? It's just shorter. He can still go into his slumber after Crisis Core. It's just shorter. So that's all there is to that. Genesis will be the first one to realize this. He communes with Sephiroth through the live stream to his consciousness. Sephiroth begins to start his grand plan. The remake plan. You know, remaking everything. Remaking the time loop, how things work, all this kind of stuff. And I feel like if you make some tweaks and some changes to Genesis, his character, even like give him a deeper voice, make him imposing, give him like, okay, so he needs to be like the Joker, right? If you look at Sephiroth being like Darkseid, you know, if you're talking about comic books or whatever and villains, Genesis should just be the Joker. He just wants to watch the world burn, you know. That could just be Genesis' whole thing. He just wants to watch the world burn. He wants to watch it all just screw with destiny and fate and the planet. He just wants to screw with everybody. That should be Genesis. That should be even his name, Genesis. He's the genesis of the crisis for the planet. He is the beginning. People forget that. There's a reason his name is Genesis. He's the beginning. This all starts with him. And I think that's what they do. So there's a lot you can dig into with that character and with those characters. Him and Zack, and a little bit on Zack too. Because I don't think I'm going to do a separate video for Zack, but because I haven't really hammered out everything with Zack. But I think Zack is going to fill some roles. I think part of uncovering what happens, what's going on with Genesis, will be through Zack. And I believe that when you get to the part where you lose Cloud into the live stream, whether it happens in Mideel this time, whether it happens anywhere else, because that has to happen. You have to lose Cloud. Cloud has to lose himself and put himself back together, because that is still a thing in the story as of right now. Cloud still thinks he's someone else in the story. He still thinks he's the cool soldier. That hasn't changed. That is still, some things are identical and still the same as they were in the original game. Some things are going to be completely different. That has not changed. He will still need Tifa to help put him back together to help save his life. He will still have to have that happen. And when he's out of the game, boom, Zack Fair fills the role of Cloud. He has the same moveset. Maybe he's even a little more powerful than Cloud. Maybe he hits harder. Maybe he's better with magic. I mean, maybe he's just more powerful. So you still have that Cloud character in there in your party doing Cloud things, but stronger and more effective. That's how you write Zack into the storyline. And then that whole time Cloud's out, you could be figuring out the mystery of what's going on with Genesis, because that is what Zack is after. That is what Zack is having to figure out. And he may have already figured out Genesis by the time you meet him in the game. He may have escaped Shinra and already had an encounter with Genesis, and he's chasing him around the world. He's trying to figure out what's going on. That could be a thing. Rest of it's up in the air. But that's my theory on Genesis. I think he is the beginning of the crisis for the planet. He is going to be the one who just sets everything ablaze. He wants to watch the world burn. He doesn't care. He is just here for the laughs. He just wants to have a good old time watching, because Sephiroth screwed him. Sephiroth screwed Genesis over real bad. He wants some of Sephiroth's cells to help save his life, to stop his degradation. And Sephiroth said, "Go screw yourself." So now, I think he's not trying to help Sephiroth. He just wants to watch it all burn. I think Genesis is going to be crazy. He's going to have lost his mind. But in the coolest, most villainous way. So I'm looking forward to seeing that, what they do with that, what they do with him, where it goes. Of course, we need some release dates, we need some images, and we have no idea when we're getting this game. Could be 6 months, could be 3 years. We have no idea. But right now we're all just guessing and speculating, and this was my latest theory and speculation video. So if you liked that, please hit the like button. And again, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to my channel. Click the bell for all notifications when you know, so you will know when I got new stuff coming up. And until the next video, y'all keep rocking. Have a great end of your weekend, beginning of your week. Be good to each other, stay safe, and I will catch you all in the next video. Take it easy.